Today on FiveEyes.tv I will be speaking to Ken Wickrow, who is a musician. He is a percussionist and a drummer, and he has travelled all over the world. Welcome to FiveEyes.tv, Kenrick.
Nice to meet you.
So Kenrick, you're a musician who's worked with many artists. Can you tell me who you have worked with?
Oh dear, it's well, I mean, all right then. There's too many to remember, but you know, Sugar Minott, Dennis Brown, Alton Ellis, Carol Thompson, Janet Kay, Gina Adebambo, Ken Booth, Marcia Griffiths, Mighty Diamonds, Tiger, and loads more. I mean,
the list could go on and on by the sound of things.
Yeah, a lot of the Lovers Rock sing Sandra Cross, Investigators, Peter Hunningale. Yeah, I mean, you know, the list does goes on. Winston Reedy, you know.
Kenrick, at what age did you start playing drums?
Drums, I would say I started playing drums probably when I was about 16. 16, which is quite fairly late.
It is, really.
Yeah, what really happened was, I mean, I was playing guitar before.
Right.
I bought a guitar. My younger brother played drums, and because the drums was something that was just sitting there in the house, I'd sit down and just keep tapping out stuff. And I don't know, I suppose, you know, one thing, I ended up playing the drums more than the guitar, you know, and so I would say I started when I was 16, about 16 years old, 16, 17. So
what made the transition from guitar to drums?
Well, it's one of these, the rest is history stories where after a few years of knocking around on the guitar, and you know, I got introduced to some reggae bands, local reggae bands, you know, who, you know, they were, you know, you used to pass certain roads and you'd hear bands rehearsing. And you know, it's one of these things where some of my friends were actually playing in bands, and after I made a little progress on the guitar, they said to me, "Do you want to, you know, come and join us?" And I joined them. I played, but at the same time, when we stopped rehearsing, I'd still go and play the drums, and people would say to me, "Oh, you sound really good on the drums." And
really,
yeah, you know, just practiced and. After a few years of knocking around with the guitar and the drums, I got introduced to Sugar Minott through some sources. And after working on Good Thing Going and, you know, recording some of that album, in fact, before Good Thing Going, we had a recording session one day and the drummer didn't turn up.
Right.
And Sugar Minott looked at me and he goes, "Boy, Ken, you have to go play a drum today," you know what I mean? One of those ones. I played on the session and everyone loved it. And he said, "Boy, that's your instrument, you have to play drums." You know, I kind of listened and you know, when you start meeting other musicians that, you know, like some of the guitarists I was meeting, to me, their standard was like, wow, you know, I would have to really work hard. And I found that the drums was quite soothing and relaxing. So I followed his advice and I stuck with the drums.
Well, it sounds like the drums is a place where you can vent your frustrations.
Sometimes, yes.
Right, so where did you study music?
Well, when I started guitar, after a couple of years guitar, I took private guitar lessons from, he's a top guitar teacher. He was a pupil of a famous guitarist called John Williams.
All right, yes.
Who does the movies.
I know who John Williams is. Yeah.
He's quite a thorough guy, you know, so he really did put me through my paces, you know, for trying to read music and stuff like that. But, you know, I kind of lost interest because I think what it was, I think a lot of musicians, when you're younger, this reading music thing kind of puts you off a bit.
Yeah.
So
if you've got the natural raw talent.
Yeah, sometimes you think that's going to get in the way. So,
yeah.
I mean, I did, you know, I took some lessons with him. But it's when I started to work with jazz musicians, or when I started to get more into the jazz thing, that I realized that I needed to study more, because, you know, a lot of the progressions that are used in jazz music comparing to, say, reggae. I'm not saying reggae don't use big progressions, but what you find is it's a whole completely different thing to hear all these arrangements and what's going on. So I think the natural thing was to go and study. So I went to City Lit institution. I did, I think it was about 2-year music theory course where we had to write with the piano and do arrangements and stuff like that. It wasn't on a massive scale, but it kind of just opened up my ear and made me feel like a bit more of a complete musician. Like I knew what people were talking about when they were discussing the stuff, you know.
Yeah, because there's so many things to listen out for.
Of course, indeed, yeah. Without a doubt, yeah.
Okay. Kenrick, can you tell me a little bit about your background?
When you say background, as in...
You know, where you come from?
Right, well, I was born in London, in the UK, in Finchley, in 1960. And I come from, you know, six siblings, basically. My parents are from Jamaica. And as I said, I was born in North London. I went to school in North London. I ended up at Tottenham School, a school called Tottenham School. Was originally Tottenham County. And that's where I kind of basically grew up, really, North London.
So there's a few of you then?
Yeah, I've got my younger brother, I think I did mention before, he played drums. And one of my elder brothers, his nickname is Bongo because he was always tapping out stuff. And according to my mum as well, she was the lead hand drummer in her parish.
Really?
Yeah, and one of my uncles, my mum's uncle, used to make hand drums with the goat skins, and she said that she was the leader of all the parades, all the rhythms, you know.
So that's a trait in the family then, isn't it?
Yeah, it must be, and you know, it's only you find out these things later on. Yeah, but she told me all this.
That's amazing.
And she was saying if she was ill, nothing couldn't go on because everyone was dependent on her to lead the whole thing. So basically, you know, that's.
So you said your brother played drums. Does he still play drums?
He doesn't play as much now. But he had a lovely feel. But I think with my younger brother, I think I was a bit more determined to really take it more serious than him. It was more a hobby for him, but I really did take it serious. Once I got that practice bug, that was it.
That's it.
As I said, everything got cut off. Friends, girlfriends, you know, it was just, music was my whole thing, you know, for a period. You know.
So how long would you say you practiced then?
Well, it would vary. I mean, I met this American drummer called Clifford Jarvis. He's now sadly not with us, but he was from America and he played with a lot of the jazz legends, John Coltrane, Freddie Hubbard, all these people. And he came to the UK and I met him. And believe you me, when I met him, it's like he showed me how to practice. I mean, I've been known to do 16 hours in a day practice. When I was young, I used to practice religiously.
Hopefully non-stop.
Well, what I used to do, I'd wake up in the morning and have a program set. So from if it's 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock, I don't have my lunch break, watch the news, have something to eat, get back on till 5.
So you're very structured even from those days?
Yeah, you had to. Most musicians that are good now will tell you that you have to be very selfish and very focused for a period. You know, I teach. And I try to instill this in some of the boys and girls that I teach, that you know, you have to be ruthless almost, you know, but it's in a kind way. But it's that thing when you're young and you just want to, you hear something, oh, how's that done? And you want to investigate.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to do, you know.
Oh, so, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Well, it's obviously paid off, hasn't it?
Well, hopefully.
So out of all the people you've worked with, who would you say you have enjoyed working with the most?
It's a very difficult question because, you know, because I work in a lot of different genres of music, you know, you've got people, you know, I suppose it's unfair to name people, but, you know, I mean, Sugar Minott was I would say Sugar Minott, because I was quite green to the industry when I started working with Sugar, and working with Sugar Minott was like it's a bit like being part of the Motown or something, where he just like a hit factory or a music factory going, where, you know, you'd learn all this thing about recording in the studio technique is slightly different. You've got to be light on the hi-hat, heavy here. And, you know, I think working with Sugar Minott was a big eye-opener because of the different people I met, you know. You know, then you've got your jazz people, you know, your Courtney Pines, you know, they're all enjoyable. You know, your David Murray, another big American guy, works in a big band with him and toured, you know, the UK with him, and that was a big, fantastic experience. I mean, really, there's so many. I enjoyed working with a lot of them, it really, Janet Kay, obviously, I've been working with her for about, God, 30 years. Carol Thompson as well. So I love working with them. They're like family, people like that, people you work with all the time.
And that's lovely.
Yeah, without a doubt, and you just feel comfortable amongst them. So, without naming names, some artists really you feel uncomfortable when you're working with them. That's the truth, and musicians will tell you, no matter what you do, they're not satisfied, they're not happy, and you can't wait for that to finish, you know what I mean? But I think over a 30-year span, there's more good ones than bad ones, you know?
That's great.
But there's lots of people. It's hard to just single out people. But I think my early beginnings with Sugar Minott was probably the biggest learning thing.
Original dancehall, Love is Rock, and you're in tune to Five Eyes TV. Five Eyes, you run things. Seeing, I got 2 eyes, you got 5. Keep it alive.
Jackie Mittoo meeting. All these other musicians that were passing through that camp, and just learning about music. Sugar was definitely the one, and plus he's the one that gave me a break, where if Sugar hadn't got, because Sugar's policy, Sugar Minott, was to try and get the young musicians on board, and even when he was doing Good Thing Going the tour, when he started the tour, he says he didn't want to use named musicians at the time.
Good.
He just wanted young, fresh guys.
That's lovely.
They almost
Excellent.
looked, get these, so it was a good break.
And give them a chance.
Oh, yeah. And that was very good,
This is Paulette on FiveEyes.tv speaking to Ken Wickrow. Let's take a break.
Reggae is dying, and the people are crying. Oh, reggae is dying. I say, I'm going to look for the video, look for Aswad, and Aswad, the drummer, is dusting off his old drumsticks. I said, let's go again, Aswad. And family man, you lean up his bass, is getting rusty, and he's dusting it off. Yeah. So I'm picking them up in a big van, and I'm going, this is a video, So we're at somewhere like Piccadilly Circle, any big place, so we put out the band and start playing. Reggae is dying. So,
You hear that, people?
and the kids are saying, what's this? But it's true. Because I'm saying, how could you lock off Sugar Minott, great guys like Frankie Paul, James Brown.
True.
We don't sing again. We don't exist. Now you
So who inspires you or inspired you?
Inspiration, wow. Ooh. I think, again, just like your question about most enjoyable artists, it comes from a lot of sources, I would say. You see, because like when I was growing up, I can still have these vivid memories of watching Top of the Pops, listening to Radio 1, and, obviously there were more white-based music on the radios then, like the Rolling Stones, Beatles. I still remember all that, listening to all that, so I guess all that kind of stuff would have influenced me as well. The early, Rolling Stones, and I used to think, God, I wish that was me, just watch them, and I used to get them up and, like pretend it was me on stage.
I remember doing that when I was young.
So, I think, there's lots of different influences. Lots of different influences, lots of people have influenced me. But if you're talking about, you've got like, if I talk about reggae drummers then, I think reggae, I would say, is the music that I play the most.
Right.
You've got people like Sly Dunbar, Carlton Barrett, who played with Bob Marley and the Wailers. Before that, you've got Lloyd Knibb, who played with the Scatterlights. He just passed away a few months ago.
Oh dear.
And he was a great drummer. And then there's drummers, Jimmy Cliff's drummer that was around, Toots and the Maytals, the guy who played with him, all them guys, so, and then you've got your jazz drummers, Art Blakey, Tony Williams, and you've got your funk drummers, all the different genres of music that I listen to, they've got drummers that, there's a drummer called Earl Palmer who played on Batman theme, he played on all these big themes, and he was fantastic at whatever style of music he played, So people like that influenced me.
Oh, good. Well, you started playing on the reggae circuit. What made you cross over to jazz?
Right. How the jazz crossover came about was a lot of the horn players that were playing with Sugar Minott, right, and a singer named Cleveland Watkins, they were always talking about jazz when, you know, when we started to tour with Sugar. I hated jazz at the time, you know, and thinking, what's all the fuss, you know, and they would want to put on like a Charlie Parker, who's a American sax player who's now dead. I think it was around 40s, 50s. He you know, they put it on and I didn't like it, but eventually the guys dragged me to Ronnie Scott's one night to see Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers live. When you hear the music live, it's almost like I was converted, you know, it's like, I couldn't believe it, just hearing what the drums could do and
all the other instruments.
Yeah, and how they intertwined and stuff. And, you know, then I eventually got one album, then another album, and that's when I really started to practice and listen and spend, you know, till hours in the morning discussing records and spending hours trying to work all this stuff out, you know, what they're doing, listening and getting books and lessons and, you know, so the jazz crossover was really influenced from the musicians that I worked with.
Right.
Jackie Mittoo, a great Jamaican musician who's now dead as well. He, you know, sometimes I walk into the studio early and you hear Jackie playing all this Jimmy Smith, who's a, you know, they have some organists that can play bass with their feet and all that. Jackie could play all that. Yeah, when I saw him, he was just playing reggae. Right. And when, you know, and these guys mention certain names, so you go out and research them, you get the music. And it does take a bit of time for your ear to get attuned to stuff, you know, but that was my influence for jazz, was really from the musicians that I worked with around me.
I go to a lot of concerts and I can do a lot of genres, and for me, when you hear a live band, it's just fantastic. So tell me about all the jazz festivals where you have played.
Yeah. I don't know about all of them. I don't know, again, yeah. But, you know, I've done so many different parts of the world. I mean, one of the nicest one, the most lavish, was the St. Lucia Jazz Festival. That is, I haven't done any festival to rival that in just being lavish. Food and location and, you know, that stuff. Montreal Jazz Festival is a nice one as well. They've got the Jazz and Heritage Festival, that one in Jamaica as well. That's a nice one. Which
one is that? Because I
the Jazz and Heritage.
Right.
That is normally, I think is that around July? Because they have the Jazz and Blues, soul and blues.
They have one in January.
Yeah.
And they have another one in June.
Yeah.
Jazz Jamaica, is it? Or well, there's a jazz festival that runs for about.
That could be the one. That could,
Sonny Bradshaw and
yeah, that's the one, yeah, we've done that one, twice, as well as going to the Alpha School.
School of Boys?
Yeah, to do some music workshops. But, you know, as I said, the jazz festivals, again, sometimes you don't even remember them, you know, you just do one, you're back, you know, you're just doing them, you know, it's not really like, I don't kind of keep a lot of memories, because sometimes people say to me, oh, can you remember that time when we were in summer? No, I don't remember, you know, so, but, you know, some of the festivals, they're generally nice festivals. One of the nice things of doing jazz festival is getting to see all these other great musicians performing live and watching some of my great hero drummers this close, you know, and seeing.
Must be great.
It's great, yeah, it is. It's very nice, yeah.
So what are your fondest memories?
Fondest memories?
Oh, there's so many.
I'll tell you what I have, fond memories I have is when you play on songs and you hear them, you know, like when especially when you just start out as a session musician and you go to a party and you hear your song and people dancing to your song. Those kind of memories
must give you a buzz.
Yeah, when you get a number one and
it's
number one for weeks and you're thinking, man, that's me. You know, even if you haven't been paid, because
it doesn't matter, does it, at that time?
At that time, no. Oh, it does, but you know, I think the more important
that's at the back of your mind,
yeah, those are fun memories, you know. And I think when you work with, you see, when I was growing up, I used to be the type of get the album cover and, you know, oh, this person, oh, I wonder what he looks like, and yeah, and before you know it, I'm alongside Ernest Ranglin, a great musician. I never thought I'd ever go to Jamaica and work with Ernest or in England. And Jackie Mittoo, another one I used to read his albums, and lots of other musicians. I think those memories are fun when you first work with these people, and, you know, as I said, and your song being played on the radio, those are nice memories.
Yeah,
you know,
I can imagine. So what do you like best, playing on stage or in the studio? What gives you more of a buzz?
I would say both equally.
Yeah?
Both equally, yeah. I think the studio can, you know, despite, you know, what people think, sometimes the studio can be very, what's the word? It's like, it's a microscope situation, you know, especially if you've got loads of people at the other side on there listening to every detail. And if you're not comfortable with yourself, that can be hard work. But the challenge is to make the artist happy and the producer happy and yourself happy.
Yeah.
I mean, with live work, it's a bit more, it's all worked out, this is how it's going to be, you know, generally, you know. So I would say I enjoy them both, really, you know. If I'm in the studio too long, I want to get out and play. If I'm doing too many live things, I want to create.
So you want to balance it, really,
yeah,
don't you?
Of course, without that.
So what advice would you give to anyone who wanted to become a musician? You know, you think back to when you were starting out.
Don't become a musician.
No, I'm sure that's not the case.
No, well, I mean, put it this way. I've got, you know, some older daughters and they both showed an interest in music. But me personally, because I know that it's a very hit and miss business, you know, you have to be fortunate to be working all the time, really. And, you know...
If you don't try, how do you know that's not going to happen?
So what I was going to go on to say is that anyone... Even when I'm teaching my pupils, you know, it's that how hard prepared you are to work. If you want to work hard and whatever you're doing, put yourself in it fully committed, you know, then there's a possibility. But I think that's the advice I would say, work hard. If you fancy being a musician or whatever instrument, go out and get as much knowledge as you can about that instrument. Listen to more experienced musicians when they give you advice. And go and do the work, and you might succeed.
So when you're not playing music, what do you do?
When I'm not playing music, generally I'm always catching up on paperwork or teaching stuff, you know. I'm not one to really say like have a hobby as such, like socializing or. To be honest with you, I get very little time off. That's the God's honest truth. I mean, apart from when I get in overnight. But I work nearly every day of the week.
God.
I teach Mondays if I'm not gigging. Tuesday's the only day I might get off. And then Wednesday I teach at an academy. And then I've had a residency in the same place for about 15 years in Brixton, funny enough, called the EFRA.
All right.
Yeah, do you know it?
EFRA, yes, I've been there.
Yeah. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays,
that?
Ladrick can tell you that. And, you know, so I'm doing that. Then Thursday, I work with Aswad quite regularly. And, in fact, we're out tomorrow. We're out tomorrow. So I don't get that much time to relax. And if I do, you know, I'm still trying to educate myself, you know, so...
Well, you're always learning.
Yeah. So I might use that time to be reading up my books and, you know, because I want to make myself even better. So that's what I would spend my time doing, reading up my books. And,
no, I hear you. I hear you. You mentioned the EFRA Tavern.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that, please? Yeah,
the EFRA Tavern is based in Brixton. I think I was involved in one of the first ones to start music at the EFRA Tavern. And on Wednesday, we have a straight jazz night.
Yeah.
Last night, we have like jazz, reggae, ska mixed together. So it's a place that, I mean, I'm not always there, because if I'm away touring or something, but a replacement. But I've been playing there for about 15 years. You know?
I've been there. I thought the bands were excellent.
Yeah. Oh, you have? On a Thursday?
No, I haven't been there on a Thursday yet, but I will come on a Thursday.
Thursdays are good nights.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about Jamaica Scalsa.
Right, Jamaica Scalsa. Okay, that's Scatronics Jamaica's Scalsa #1. Well, I think it's Scatronics' newest album, or the first album, and what that's really about is Clifton Bigger Morrison, our keyboard player.
Right.
He worked for a few years with some of the, what are they called, what's that? So Buena Vista Social Club, which was a film, Cuban musicians basically. Some of those musicians, he did a little tour with them and had this influence really of Cuban music.
Wow.
And then when we were doing the album, we were having a jam one day, in fact while we were constructing the album, because we used to rehearse some of the tracks, and you know, I started to play this kind of like a cha-cha-cha kind of thing, and Bigger started to do, you know, whatever, and the bass, and we had a song and we called it Scalsa #1. So that it was the influence of Cuban music and the ska basically fused together, you know.
Wow.
I'm sure it's been done before, you know, but it's something that we thought, you know, we can develop in the future, you know, hopefully, yeah.
Right. You are working with Joss Stone. Can you just elaborate on that, please?
Well, I'm working with the production company that puts her music together at the moment. In fact, I'm going in the next few hours. But yeah, she's working on a new album. I mean, I read in the papers today it's coming out in August, but I don't see it's going to be finished by August. But yeah, it's just another artist. You know, I'm working with her and an artist called Ava Lee, who's going to be a new name. You know,
So you have to look out for Ava Lee.
Ava Lee, yeah, she's another artist, and they're all kind of doing music that has got a ska and reggae influence, really. You know, so they've been trying to get me on board for a long time, and I haven't been available. I keep missing dates, but fortunately, last week I did the first of the 2 tracks. We're hopefully doing 2 tracks today, and then Tuesday we're in again. So yeah, so you know, I've met her. She's been to the Afro twice. Come down there, we had a chat. Yeah, so it's just like another project that I'm working on at the moment with her and Ava Lee, and you know, it's just another project. You know?
Busy person, aren't you? So what plans do you have for the future?
For the future? Well, I suppose it's just to improve myself, my musicianship, and hopefully that the work continues, you know, and I can maintain a standard that keeps me working, and people are interested in what I'm doing, and more people, new people, you know. What I find is exposure is the key.
Definitely.
You know, because I did that Reggae Britannia show in, was it April? I can't remember if it was March or April, or even could have been February. But from doing that show, the amount of people that see you out there,
that's it, the exposure, definitely.
Remember you're there, and so that's what I want to do, is just for people to know I'm there and I'm available, and I can, you know, be good on whatever I'm doing, really, you know. So yeah, that's what I want to do in the future, is just maintain a high standard, or you know, and hope that work continues.
That's excellent. Ernest Ranglin earlier. Can you tell me more about him?
Well, Ernest is probably one of the best guitarists that ever walked the earth. You know, he's a great musician, fantastic to work with as well. Yeah, I worked with Ernest a few years ago when I was working with Jazz Jamaica, which was one of the bands that I used to play drums for as well.
Oh.
For about 12 years. And then, yeah, I met Ernest through Gary Crosby, who was the leader of Jazz Jamaica.
No, I know who Gary Crosby
and,
is.
Yeah, you know, I got to tour the UK with Ernest, and he invited us to Jamaica to do another tour. So, yeah, Ernest is a fantastic musician, you know, I mean, he's legendary. Yeah, and you learn a lot from Ernest as well, discipline-wise, you know. I don't know, we had this, well, maybe I was wrong to have this misconception that you get to Jamaica, it's just all going to be fun and happy, and we had about 2 or 3 days of doing nothing, you know, and all of a sudden we get the call sheet from Ernest, and it's like 9 in the morning, you know, like, and he's bang on, he's there, and he's got all his music written out, and he's very like this, but fantastic to work with.
I noticed he's written the sleeve notes on Jamaica Scalsa.
On Scalsa #1.
Oh, it's Scalsa #1.
Yeah,
so
yeah, the title is actually Scalsa #1.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he did write the sleeve notes. Because Bigger, who now he's got a house in Jamaica, and Bigger, because of the association with us and him, we thought it'd be great to have him, you know, to write a few notes, and he was very agreeable, and he liked the album, so he ended up writing them. Yeah.
There's one other person I want to ask you about because I had the pleasure of interviewing him, the late Sonny Bradshaw.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Sonny again, another fantastic musician.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I worked with Sonny here as well, touring with him and Myrna.
Myrna, yes.
His wife. Yes. And Sonny, he's one of the real old school guys, you know. And I think he was instrumental in bringing a lot of discipline to the whole structure of the teaching and you know, a great musician. Yeah. So he was worked with him here and in Jamaica as well. And Sonny is no longer with us. But that was a good experience.
But he seemed to be a good influence on many people.
Yeah, without a doubt, Sonny. And he was such a calm guy. You know, I don't know how he done it, you know, but he did. He managed to do it, didn't he?
He did, yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time out to be here because I can see you've got such a busy schedule. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Kenrick.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me today. Cheers, thanks.
This is Paulette on FiveEyes.tv and I have just been speaking to Kenrick Rowe, who is a well-travelled musician.
This is him.
Really?
Oh. Yeah, Bammy, because that man used to say, man, I must listen to jazz, man. Oh, go away. You know what I mean? When they used to put in the CD in the bus, I said, what's this? This is music, you know? This is Kenrick Rowe, drummer, on FiveEyes.tv.